Hi everybody, it's Steve Farmer here, and it's been a long time since I brought you an update on the Arizona Scorpions for this season of the 2012 U.S. Chess League. You know, my father passed away on October 3rd, and here it is just a month later. In the meantime, I missed quite a few important matches and a lot of interesting stuff happening in the league. Well, let's round out where we are right now. We are heading into Week 10, and Arizona has already clinched a playoff berth. Now they will take on the Carolina Cobras in the final regular season matchup. I think this is going to be their third time meeting. Now Carolina is out of the running for a playoff berth, but Arizona can improve their playoff standing with a win against Carolina. A draw will even help them to move maybe up from fourth to third, and the win may well put them into second place for the Western Division. But even if Arizona was to lose to Carolina, they'd still make the playoffs. Say they threw a bunch of players like me in there and lost all 4 games. Not a big deal. And let me tell you why. Because a couple weeks ago, there was an incident where Arizona was accused of cheating. And that happened in a game with Barcenia. It's the only game he played this season, unfortunately. I love Rogelio. I think he's a great player. He's fun to watch his games. Very talented player. But from what I understand from some of the other Scorpions is that Rogelio doesn't often get on the internet and chat with his friends and family back in the Philippines. And it appears that he was doing that while he was playing the USCL game. Maybe not during the game, but when he was chatting with people before the game started. And it seems that his computer engine was turned on. And that is a big no-no in the U.S. Chess League, understandably so. Now, I watched that game, and I am a class below Rogelio. 2 classes, let's be honest, 2 classes at least below Rogelio's talent level. But I was able to see, in the areas that they were claiming that he was using a computer to cheat, I was able to predict all the moves that were played in those moves. So I don't think that Houdini was really the culprit here. I think that it may have been running in the background. I don't believe that Rogelio was cheating. I don't think that he's the type of person that would do that. Though it will be a good source for amusement when we meet at tournaments. I'm going to ask him to step through the metal scanner and all that kind of stuff. Be that as it may, Arizona won that match handily. Just handily won it. And since they figured that he was cheating, they gave him a forfeit and gave the win to his opponent, which narrowly gave the Dallas Destiny the victory of that match. So you have that going on, and Arizona has already clinched a playoff berth with a game to go still in the regular season. So Arizona's been doing pretty good. Great team this year. Great performance by all the players from board 1 to board 4. They were all doing their jobs. There were a couple of matches that were really close and should have gone the other way, I think. So Arizona, I think, has nothing to fear if they go into the postseason in 4th place. I don't think they have anything to fear at all from the Western Division. Now, Eastern Division, that may be a little bit different, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I'm going to pick Arizona, not only because I'm biased toward the team, obviously I am, I blog for the Scorpions, but because I think that they have good talent and that they have been given a couple of bad deals during the season. A few bad choices by the players, some missed opportunities. I think that they're sharpened up now, and heading into the postseason, they're going to be keyed up in the right frame of mind to do what they got to do. So what we're going to look at in this video is just going to be a down and dirty picture of what happened in the last match against St. Louis. And here on this position here, we see, from Black's perspective from the bottom, Mackenzie Molner playing black, and we have Diamant from St. Louis playing white. And now this is a very interesting positional battle. Now all season long, Mac has been playing really tactical stuff. For example, in the last matchup against Miami, Mac played the fried liver with white and beat Becerra with it. Maybe if I have some time, I'll show that to you. But I want to keep this video down and dirty so I can get back to my lovely friend and enjoy the rest of the weekend. So in this position here, Mac has a slightly inferior position, but he's holding just fine. His king's got a dominant position. His bishop is not the best in the world, but it's doing its job. It's helping to maintain and restrict the white king. So I think black has an easy draw here. But Max sees something here, and he goes for it. He plays f4. If he had played g4 or even a6 here, he's probably holding the game pretty easy. He sees f4, and he sees an idea. Now, knight takes c5 was played, and that's the proper move. And now Max should just simply play pawn takes knight. He's got a slightly worse game, but he's going to be able to hold it, I'm sure. But he plays f takes g3. And this is just an absolute horrible mistake made in time pressure. Max is a great player, but he always gets into some sort of time pressure in each and every game. I wish I had some good and worthy advice to give Mac to stay out of time pressure, but this is a fast time control, folks. It's going to happen. And Mac is a very classical player. I mean, this guy is a true blue-born romantic at chess. I mean, you don't play the Evans Gambit and you don't play the fried liver attack unless you got that running in your veins. Very few people these days have that running in their veins. Mac makes this move with a basic calculation that he's going to be able to run that pawn up the board. And his opponent got freaked out by this too and plays f takes g3. Let's take a step back and let's flip the board. Now, we have white's perspective on this position. How do you play from here and win the game for white? Yep, white missed a win here. I saw this during the game and I mentioned it in the chat room. I said that I think white missed a win because he moved rather quickly after Mac played f takes g3. He played pawn takes g3 as well, almost instantly. But there's a winning move here. Pause the video and see if you can find it. What would you play as white? Okay. If you found knight to b3, you are a genius. You are an absolute genius. And this move is possible based on the geometric shape of this position. We often in chess get into a linear way of thinking about things, such as what white played here. He thought, well, black's ready to come screaming down with that pawn. I'm going to have to take it. No. Let's look at this. The exposed nature of the black king is what saves white. Actually wins for white. He's got several choices here. He's got rook takes f2. Let's take a look at that. Well, the point here is that white has the move rook to b5, check. Couple choices for black here. Only two. King c6 or king e6. Let's take a look at king c6. Well, now we have knight check. King to c7. So the rook can't come in with a check on b7. Rook takes g5. Stops that pawn from going forward too far and too fast. And now knight to e2 stops the promotion and any ideas of bringing a rook around to a2 as well. King c6, for example, rook to g7, a5, knight f4, rook a2, and now we can take this pawn, and white is up a piece for a pawn. Or, from this position, you could play king to e6. Now we go rook takes g5, g2, knight to d4 check here. And same situation here. He was attacking the rook, so we got to move it. Rook to a2, knight to e2. He can take the pawn, we can take the pawn, or rook a1. You know, it comes out to the same thing. So again, piece for a pawn. Very good for white, winning. There's another choice here, and that is g2. Then we still get rook to b5 check, and it's all the same type of thing. King c6. Now we come to knight f4, and we're going to pick up that pawn. Or king to e6. Now we take rook takes f2, knight to d4 check, king f4, and rook to g4 is just going to transpose to what we saw before. And lastly, there's g takes f2 straight away. This seems most dangerous, but still rook to b5. Again, the two choices. If king to c6, we go knight to a5 here. And now, after king to d7, we can check, forces the trade of rooks. Fortunately, when you capture the rook, it's keeping that pawn from promoting. King takes, and now king to e2 wins. Similarly, if he goes to e6, we can go check. The king has nowhere to go but to the 7th rank. And again, we get this trade going on. And king to e2 wins. So going back to the game position here, white missed a clear win here. And that could have spelled doom for Arizona. However, that was not the case. So flipping the board back in the game, white played pawn takes, And then we ended up getting a draw after the following moves. Mac tried, but White's got just enough counterplay to make this work. And they decided not to play on anymore at this point. I wonder why. Alright, let's get on with our next game. Here we have the game on board 2, Lev Altounian playing white versus Kannappan playing black for St. Louis. Now, Lev is a piece up, and after king takes a4, there are no more pawns on the board. Believe it or not, Kannappan managed to draw this game, and Lev took the whole 50 moves here. But Lev had some chances to win the game earlier on, so let's take a jump back more toward the opening and see what he missed. Okay, White's in a pretty good position here. He's actually winning in this position. Now, Kannappan has had a tremendous season so far. He's scored something like 7 or 7.5 out of 8. That's impressive, especially if he's been mostly on board too. He seems to be undefeatable. Now, if his other games were like this, we're going to see that he was definitely defeatable because White is clearly winning here. Now, I thought f3 was a move to play because White has all sorts of crossfire activities going on here. If the knight on g4 moves, the knight on e5 hangs. If the knight on e5 moves, other than taking the pawn on f3, then queen takes g7 is mate. So there's a lot of nasty little crossfires here that Black has to contend with, and he's just flat out lost. But Lev chose a different path, and no less effective. He played f4, hitting the other knight. It has the same effect. Kannappan decides to try and make the best of it. He's in a really bad situation, but he tries to press forward, and deservedly so, as we saw from the position we looked at a moment ago. Fe5, knight e5, knight to d3, knight takes d3, rook to e7, queen to e7, and now d6. Now, I predicted this series of moves and the proper follow-up here, but Lev didn't find the proper follow-up. Kannappan plays queen to e5, which is probably the best move, and now Lev decided to take on d3, which is not the best move. Pause the video and see if you can find a better move that Lev should have played here. Okay, the move to play here is rook to c7, and I called this from a few moves ago in the chat room, and Mark Ginsburg also saw this as well, and we both agree this is just absolutely flat out winning for White. Now, Black only has really 3 moves to look at. I mean, he could interpose with a piece, but that's just going to lose material for no real gains. So he's got only 3 king moves to look at. First is king to h8. That looks kind of risky, but let's take a look at this. Now queen takes e5, check, and now knight takes, and now knight f6. We're threatening rook to h7 mate. Only one way to stop that, and that's to interpose a piece, which means he's going to lose a piece. Take here, knight goes here, so that we can go here. He can block the mate. But d7, rook to d8, rook to c8. Now if he takes the pawn, we take the knight check, and then take the rook. So not good. So knight to e6, and then bishop d5. Oh yeah, that was a bishop, not a pawn. Time for Black to give it up. So that was on king to h8. Another move is king to g8. And now bishop checks, king moves over, queen takes d3. Now Black has a few checks he can give. Now White does have to be careful to some degree. King to g2 would not be a good idea because the queen check and queen mates. So queen f1, simple and easy to do. Now you don't have to worry about hanging pieces here, and I'll show you why. And this is maybe what Lev was not too sure about, but White's clearly okay with this. Now he can check, king to g2, queen to d2 check, king takes g3, and now queen to g5, king f2. Now he cannot play queen takes h5. Do you see why? Take a moment and try and find what White should play here. Right. It's mate in one move with queen to a1. Checkmate. Surprise! So queen to d2 check has to be tried. King comes up, and now he can... Oh, well, He can't really take the bishop because the queen to e8. Now he can interpose, but queen to e5 check. He only has one move, and now it's mate. So he cannot take the bishop. Instead, he has to try and check. But after queen to e3, queen to b2 check, king to f3, there are no more checks other than g2, and black is going to get mated either via e8 or h6, one of the two. Now there's one other move to look at, and it looks like it's the safest one, coming up into the nest of pawns there, but this actually leads to the quickest mate of them all. Rook to g7 check. Now if he takes the rook, bishop f3 is mate right away. So queen takes rook has to be tried, but queen takes, king takes knight, bishop checks, king can move up, but now queen takes h6 is checkmate. So rook to c7 here was just absolutely winning. As a matter of fact, had he played rook to c7, if I was black, I would have probably resigned. I wouldn't have played on. As it was, after queen takes d3, bishop d7, well, Kannappan had reason to play on. Let's jump back to the position we joined this game at. Move 70, where the last pawn capture was made. Lev dragged this out to the full 50 move rule. But our laughter does not end there, because in this position here at move 111, now king takes a4 was played on move 70. So here at move 111, white plays knight to f6. Now, let's flip the board so you have the black pieces. Okay, you're playing black, your opponent just played knight to f6. And you want to end the misery. You know it's a draw. And everybody was joking because he missed this move. Everybody was saying that Kannappan was playing for the win. Being a piece down. Ironic, right? So here, he actually plays rook to f1. And he prolongs his own misery with this. But, did you find the move rook to d6 check? This is beautiful. The point is, if he takes, it's stalemate. But knowing Lev and his quirky attitude in this game, Lev would have probably played king to c5. And after rook takes f6, he would have played on for a bit, I'm sure. Alright, let's look at our last game, which is going to be Dipro Chakraborty. Okay, the last game we're going to look at in this video, by the way, you'll notice that this is only 3 games. I'm not showing you the Mohandas game because it was a typical Mohandas grind-out positional battle, and it would take a lot of time to explain that game. You can find all of these games with a PGN viewer at the United States Chess League webpage. Very nice new page they did this year, and that's at uschessleague.com. All one word, US Chess League. So go to that site, visit it, like it on Facebook. Please like it on Facebook. One of our fellow posters on YouTube and Chess Videos TV, Greg Shahad, is the president, and Arun Sharma is the vice president. These guys have been doing a great job. I think that Greg is trying to build somebody up to help take over this for his position so he can move on to bigger and better things. That's one thing about Greg. He's always got his eyes on the brass ring out there, if you will. He's always looking for something bigger and better, and God bless him for doing that. That is absolutely awesome. The guy's not getting a lot of money for doing this, I'm sure. And it's really great that he's doing stuff to promote chess, along with his sister and many, many, countless other people in chess that are trying to make this a more popular sport. So, by all means, visit the site, like it on Facebook, do it. Greg is a great guy. US Chess League is a great program. I want to see it continue and maybe grow stronger, more teams, or maybe even a second league at some point. That would be awesome to have a B-team league. In Germany, they have the Bundesliga, and then they have other leagues as well. Erste Liga, Zweite Liga. They have other things. I played for a team that was in the Erste Liga when I was over in Germany. It was a great experience. It wasn't real high class in the second league. It wasn't real high class. We'd go to guest houses and play, but it was fun to visit other players. And, I spoke a little bit of German at the time and was able to get along with them fine. So if we had something like that in the States here, that would be great for for experts to masters, and then maybe a B class, for A's and experts, something like that. I could see it going on farther and farther. Although I think the U.S. Chess League is, with the staffing they got, really have reached their limit on what they can cover. All right, enough ranting about that. And about Mohendesi, we're not going to cover his game because it's going to take too much time. But visit the U.S. Chess League. You can watch all the games there. And anything I have not been able to give you, for example, the game against Dallas the match against Dallas was very interesting. You might want to go to the Chess League site and look up the fried liver that Mac was brave enough to play against Julio Becerra, of all people. And he won that game. So there's a lot of interesting stuff on there. They also show you the game of the week picks and stuff like that. So, yeah, by all means, check out uschessleague.com. Okay, so here we have our final game that we're going to look at, and Dipro Chakraborty is playing white for Arizona, and Hendrickson is playing black for St. Louis. Now, Hendrickson just played queen to e5, and white's got a comfortable position here. He is a pawn up, and it happens to be a passed queen-rook pawn. Now, with proper play and given time, this is probably a win for white. Difficult as hell, but it's probably a win for white. But when you're racing against the clock, and when you're as young as Dipro is, you're not going to have the experience, and you're not going to have the time to work it all out. So he's going to need a little help from his opponent. And after queen e5, Dipro played king to g2, just improving the king position. And now Dipro gets the much-needed help. His opponent played knight takes h5, and this is a very horrible mistake and throws away any chance to hold the game. Not only that, it really just makes the win very, very easy for white. Now Dipro plays queen takes e4. He'd like to exchange queens. That would make the win very easy. But black does not want to trade queens. But then again, his knight is attacked. What does he do? Well, in the game, he decides to play queen f6. And I think that he realized too late that after knight takes h5, he cannot recapture with the king. If he does, he's met with a queen trade and a very fast a-pawn to deal with. Queen f3 check, forces the trade, and just by using the rule of the square of the pawn, we can see this is a no-brainer. White wins easily. So going back here after knight takes h5 and queen takes e4, there's really nothing that black can do to try and save the game. If he tries to bring his knight closer by making a different queen trade, say with queen to d5, doing this, this doesn't change anything at all. White is still winning handily. And other moves, such as like queen to g5, well, now you got queen to e3, forces a queen trade, and an easy win for white. So that's why he played queen f6, now knight h5, and he realized too late that the knight cannot be recaptured, and he plays queen to d8. So everybody was chalking this up for a win for Dipro now, and that is exactly what happens. Just consolidates, gets his queen over to the b file to help the a-pawn. Not much black can do, but sit back and watch what happens. Plays king h4, queen e4, king g5, now queen e3 check, is going to force the trade of queens and then the promotion on a8. Black resigned at this point. This is the only decisive game in the match. And thanks to Dipro, we clinched a playoff berth with this win. And thankfully, in Mac's game, his opponent did not see that win with knight to b3 that we looked at the beginning of the video. So, very interesting stuff. Arizona loses a match a couple weeks ago to Dallas Destiny by technicality. They manage a win against the Miami Sharks with the bold play by Mackenzie Molner on board 1. And this week, trouncing St. Louis. Well, trouncing 2.5 to 1.5. So 3 draws and a win. That's all you need. All right, so Arizona again will take on the Carolina Cobras. It's not really an important match. It'd be nice to get a better pole position in the postseason playoff, but it's not really critical. I think that Arizona's got a good handle on just about everybody in the Western Division here. So let's do a brief recap of the season. Week 1, Arizona beat the Los Angeles Vibe 3-1. Week 2, they tied the Philadelphia Inventors. Now, Arizona did lose to the Seattle Sluggers 3-1. And against the Manhattan Applesauce, they lost 2.5 to 1.5. That was a close match. That could have gone either way. Against the San Francisco Mechanics, Arizona won 3.5 to 1/2. That was a rout. Against the Baltimore Kingfishers, we lost. So we have a tough time against Eastern boys, but we're doing okay against the Western folk. Against the Dallas Destiny, we lost on a technicality, 2.5 to 1.5. It should have been a win by that margin. Against the Miami Sharks in Week 8, it was another rout, 3.5 to 1/2. You guys were just blazing through that. And this matchup against St. Louis was a win for Arizona, 2.5 to 1.5. So, like I said, Arizona is doing pretty good against the Western Division players. Eastern Division is going to need a little bit of sharpening up, but they don't have to worry about them right now. They have to get through the remainder of the playoffs in the Western Division before they meet the Eastern boys. So it looks to be a very good playoff to me, and I will promise you to give you more updated and more concise coverage of the games after the Carolina Cobras matchup. That's the Week 10 of the U.S. Chess League. That's not a playoff. So I'll give you a quick recap of that one, but when we get into the playoffs, I'll be more detailed in my coverage. All right, folks. Well, thank you for your patience and understanding of my situation. I look forward to bringing you more games in the future. I hope you will tune in to the United States Chess League. Go to chess.com, watch the games there on Mondays. I think they do it on Mondays. It might be Wednesdays. But you go to the uschessleague.com, you'll see the schedule there. And then you can either go to ICC to watch the games, or you can go to chess.com and watch Danny Wrench and his folks do a presentation on it, which is pretty cool. I really like the coverage those guys do. It's kind of quirky, kind of geeky, but you know that fits in with pretty much every chess player I know. And as long as he doesn't bring up Honey Boo Boo anymore, I think we'll be fine. All right, folks, that's it for now, and until next week, good luck.